All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're exploring a really fascinating topic: how a company in India can speak the exact same financial language as a company pretty much anywhere else on the planet. The answer? It's something called Ind AS, or Indian Accounting Standards. And trust me, it's absolutely key to understanding India's place in the modern global economy. So, let's frame the problem here. Just imagine for a second you're an investor, maybe sitting in New York or London. You're looking at two different companies. One's in Mumbai, the other's in Munich. How on earth do you compare them? How can you be sure you're actually comparing apples to apples and that their financial reports are telling the same kind of story? Well, the solution, in theory, is simple. You need a common language. And in the world of global finance, that language is called the International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS. You can really think of it just like this bridge we see here. It's a universal set of rules that connects different economies and makes sure that financial communication is clear and standardized for everyone. Okay, so if there's this global standard out there, where exactly does India fit into the picture? And that brings us right to our main topic. What exactly is Ind AS? To put it simply, Ind AS is India's own set of accounting standards. But here's the most important part: its whole mission. It was specifically created to align with those global IFRS standards. It's the system that brings Indian financial reporting onto the world stage. Now, this is a really crucial point. Ind AS is converged with IFRS. It is not identical. What does that mean? Well, it means this wasn't just a simple copy and paste job. Think of it this way: certain rules were tailored specifically for the Indian economy, while still making sure the big picture aligns perfectly for global investors. It's the best of both worlds, really. So you might be wondering, why go through all that trouble? Why create a whole new system that's just almost the same as the global one? Well, the ultimate goal was all about creating a much, much clearer financial picture for everybody. At its heart, everything about Ind AS boils down to two core principles, which are perfectly symbolized by these scales: uniformity and transparency. The big idea is to make sure every single company is reporting its finances in a way that's consistent and comparable, and that all that information is presented openly and honestly for anyone to see. So the mission, plain and simple, is to standardize financial statements across all Indian companies. You create this one single, high-quality set of accounting rules that everybody, from a local analyst in Delhi to a huge investment fund in Tokyo, can understand and, more importantly, can actually trust. And what happens when you get that level of trust and clarity? Well, the payoff is enormous. It all comes down to one critical thing: boosting investor confidence. You see, by aligning with international practices, the financial reports coming out of Indian companies become so much more reliable. And that reliability, it acts like a shield, building trust. It means global investors can look at the numbers from an Indian firm and just have a much greater faith in their accuracy. And of course, that makes them way more likely to invest. It's a straight line from clear rules to economic growth. This quote really just says it all, doesn't it? When everyone is speaking the same financial language, you break down barriers. You build the kind of global trust you absolutely need to attract investment and to drive real growth. So, let's put ourselves in an investor's shoes. What does this all actually mean for you? Well, it means you get much better comparability between companies you might invest in. It means the data you're using to make decisions is way more reliable. You get greater transparency, and the bottom line? A much higher level of confidence in the Indian market as a whole. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why, but that brings us to a really practical question: the who. Who actually has to follow these Ind AS rules? So, which companies actually fall under this Ind AS umbrella? The rules are pretty specific, so let's break down the main groups. First up, you've got the big players. This covers every single company listed on an Indian stock exchange. It also includes large private companies that are unlisted but still meet certain thresholds for their size and net worth. Basically, if you're a major force in the Indian economy, you're on board. Next, you have to understand that the rules don't just stop at one company. They spread out through the entire corporate web. This means if a parent company has to comply, well then so do all of its holding companies, its subsidiaries, its associates, its joint ventures, the whole family. This makes sure there's full transparency and absolutely no loopholes. And finally, we have the incredibly important financial sector. We're talking about banks, insurance companies, and what are known as non-banking financial companies, or NBFCs. They're all required to adopt Ind AS. And because they're so vital to the economy, They follow their own specific, phased-in roadmaps to make sure the transition is as smooth as possible. So, here's a quick recap, just to lock it all in. The rules cover the big public and private companies based on their size. They cover their entire network of related companies, and they cover the whole financial sector. It's a really comprehensive approach, you see. It covers all the bases.
So, if you remember just one thing today, let it be this. Ind As is India's financial bridge to the rest of the world. It's the standard that allows capital and confidence to flow much more freely in both directions.
And that leaves us with a final thought. As our economies get more and more connected, more and more intertwined every day, what do you think the next logical step is for achieving truly universal financial transparency? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.